Good morning or good afternoon, whatever time it is for you guys. Hey, whatever time it is. Um, Anyways, so today this is the math lesson for whole group for Monday, April 5th. Last week we were learning about just a review of how to tell time to the nearest minute using our hour hands and our minute hands. Knowing that on a clock we have the two hands. The shorter hand is the hour hand and the longer hand is the minute hand. Before we jump into today's lesson, something I want to review and I wanted to kind of visualize for you guys. Some of us are having trouble telling what time it is when our minute hand is in about the last quarter hour. Meaning, when we see a time like this, I want you to think about what time this is right now. Some of you are going to say, let me actually go like that to make it a little bit easier for you guys. Some of you are going to say that the time is 10:50, and some of you are going to say the time is 11:50. The correct time for this right here is actually 10:50. Even though the hour hand looks like it is on the 11, if you look super close, it's not quite there yet. But we can't always tell that. If this was all the way on the wall, you're not going to be able to go ahead and go all the way up to a wall in a room to see if that hour hand is exactly on that number. But what we do need to realize is that that minute hand is constantly moving clockwise. So if you watch, in 10 minutes, you need to ask yourself, well, is it going to be in the 11 o'clock hour, since I know this starts a new hour, or am I going to be entering the 12 o'clock hour if I think it's 11:55? So watch this minute hand go, because we know we're just 10 minutes away from this new hour. Boom, new hour. It's 11 o'clock now. So if I go back in time now, beep, 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 beep. We're in the 10 o'clock hour. 11 o'clock, 10 o'clock. So even though this hour hand looks like it's on that 11, I know that by using my minute hand, I still have 10 minutes before the new hour, so I have not yet reached the 11 o'clock hour. So in summary, when you see the minute hand, anywhere in about these last 15 minutes of the hour, the last quarter hour as it's called, you need to think, well, what's it going to be in 15 or 10 minutes? What hour am I going to be in then? And then think backwards into what hour we're currently in. Because you're not always just going to be able to look at here and tell right away. You're going to have to also use your minute hand. All right, let's go ahead and jump into today. Today what we're going to be doing is we're going to be talking about something called elapsed time. Elapsed time is a way of saying how much time has passed from this time to this time. So I woke up at 8 o'clock in the morning and I drank a cup of coffee and I watched the news, and when I was done, it was 8:15. So I need to figure out how much time has passed from 8 o'clock to 8:15. That's called elapsed time. What we're doing today is we're just going to do a little introduction, and I want you to understand that even though a clock is round, it's a circle, time does not just go in a circle. Time is a concept, it's called linear. Time is a concept that just keeps going, right? We don't, as much as we want to maybe go back into the past and time travel, we can't do that. Time is constantly going forward. We are constantly going from 1 hour to the next hour to the next hour, from AM to PM and then another AM. And even though we keep reusing the numbers, time continues on. We go from Monday to Tuesday to Wednesday. We go from March to April. We go from 2019 to 2020. Time is constantly moving forward. Even though this is a circle and it goes around, time does not. Time continues to go forward. That's why we get older. We don't get younger. So a great way to represent time when you're looking at a clock is to think about a number line. We know number lines can be used in great ways. Number lines can be used to help us find friendly numbers. Number lines can be used to help us to figure out the difference between two numbers. For example, if I knew I had to subtract 58 and 100, I know I could count up on a number line and get to my next friendly number. We do that all the time. So what we're going to be doing today is we're going to be using a number line to help us figure out time. In your math practice problems today, I have a couple problems where we're just practicing placing time on a number line. And then at the end, you're going to actually practice how to figure out elapsed time. So I'm going to show you an example on my board. I drew a number line starting at 1 o'clock and it stops at 1:20. So you can see I went in increments of 5 minutes, which is how our clocks are. We know that each of the minutes goes up by 5 minutes, or excuse me, each of the numbers represents 5 minutes. But there's also the 1 minutes that are in between. These still exist. So we're gonna practice representing some of these times on the number line. The first time I'm gonna look at is, we'll do this one, 1:19. And the time is 1:19. So I need to look at my number line, and you should be thinking right now with me where I would want to put 1:19. Remember, you can pause this video, especially if you have someone with you, and tell them where you think it is. If no one's with you, still pause the video and tell yourself where you think 1:19 should go, and then you can resume the video and see where it's at. So if I'm looking at my number line, I know that 19 is close to 20. I also know that comes after 15. So if I was thinking 1:15, and I can show you on my clock, 1:15, and I need to find out where 1:19 is. 1:19 is right here. So on my number line, I need to figure out what is it closer to. Is it closer to 1:15 or is it closer to 1:20? 1:15 is here, 1:20 is here, and this is 1:19. So 1:19 is closer to 1:20. So on my number line, I'm going to write down 1:19, and I'm going to draw kind of a little arrow to show where I would put that. You notice my arrow is closer to the 1:20. It's closer to the 1:20 because 1:19 is closer to 1:20 than it is to 1:15. So I went ahead and I marked my 1:19. Now I'm going to find 1:02. So I'm looking on my number line where 1:02 would go. Think about what 2 times it would be between what 2 increments. Pause the video. 1:02. I know that 1:02 is going to fall between 1 o'clock and 1:05. If I pull up my clock for you guys, here's 1 o'clock. Here's 1:05. I know these are 1 minute increments, so 1:02 would be right here. So I need to think, is it closer to 1 o'clock or 1:05? It's technically closer to 1 o'clock, though it's almost at the halfway point. So putting it about the halfway point would be pretty accurate because it's not going to be perfect on here. So between 1 o'clock and 1:05, I would put 1:02, slightly lower than half. But again, that might be a little bit hard to represent, so that's okay. So I have 1:02. And then let's do my last one, 1:14. Where do you think 1:14 would go on this number line? 1:14, what 2 increments would it be between? Pause the video. So 1:14, I know would be between 1:10 and 1:15. So between 1:10 and 1:15, between 1:10 and 1:15, I need to think where 1:14 would be. Well, 1:14 is right here. Is it closer to 1:10 or 1:15? It's much closer to 1:15, right? It's only 1 minute difference. So I'm going to put 1:14 on my number line, and I'm going to make it pretty close to 1:15. So now I have some times plotted on my number line, and this is what you're going to be doing in your activity for your first few problems. You're going to actually be dragging a number in your PowerPoint slide, and I have little arrows you can also click and drag to kind of help it be precise. It's not going to be perfect. It's on the computer. We know that. This is okay. This is just for practice. But now that I have time on a number line, I can actually go back and I can determine how much time has elapsed between 2 different times. So if I was to look at this number line and I was to ask you, let me make up a story. So at 1:05, my son woke up and he started having a tantrum because I was out of goldfish. The tantrum continued until 1:10. How long did he have his tantrum for? So I look, the tantrum started at 1:05, right here. And then it stopped at 1:10. So I want to know how much time has gone by with his tantrum from 1:05 to 1:10. How long has gone by? 5 minutes has gone by. He had a 5-minute tantrum. I wish they only lasted 5 minutes. So, again, this is a lot I'm throwing at you. This is just day one. Today your goal is to take a number line and to be able to plot the numbers as accurately as you can. And then we're going to start to look about how much time went by using that number line. And that's their goal for today. Go ahead and use your practice problems that are on your Google Classroom. If you have any questions, please contact me.